Welcome to the True Assassins podcast.
Oh, I like that.
You sent us some really wild stuff this time, truly fascinating.
Yeah,
And dark, unsettling material.
definitely unsettling.
This stuff hints at a world where brilliance,
Right.
where it kind of takes a dark turn.
hmm
Where people use their talents for something really sinister, where creation and destruction get all tangled up.
Right.
And specifically, we're diving into these two narratives you shared, inspired by the book True Kill by Orlando Madsbrine,
Oh, yeah.
about an architect who designs buildings with deadly flaws and a pilot who stages plane crashes.
Wow. So we're really getting into the dark side of human ingenuity today.
Yeah, we're going to unpack these disturbing tales,
Yeah.
try to figure out what makes these twisted individuals tick,
Right.
what drove them, and what ultimately happened to them.
I think it's fascinating how this fictional world of True Kill, which you've told me a little about,
Yeah.
it actually kind of shines a light on something pretty disturbing about us humans. How we can use our intelligence, which is usually associated with good things, to plan something evil.
Absolutely.
And what really grabs me in the material you sent is how these individuals twisted their intellect, something that could be used for creation and turned it into a tool for death.
That's what makes these stories so compelling.
For sure.
So let's start with the first story, The Architect.
Okay, sounds good.
Maya, right?
Hi, yeah.
The material paints her as this driven individual, someone consumed by this. Thirst for perfection, they call it. But somehow, this desire for perfection morphed into something really wicked. She started designing buildings that were literally meant to kill.
It's almost like a perversion of the creative impulse, isn't it?
Exactly. And the thing is, it wasn't about cutting corners or accidental mistakes. These weren't just buildings that were poorly designed.
No, not at all.
This was deliberate.
Your sources make that crystal clear.
Yeah.
Maya didn't just accidentally create flawed buildings. She planned these deaths meticulously, weaving them into her designs. Imagine, like a column that hides a gas leak,
Oh, wow.
or a stairwell with a railing that's designed to give way at a certain point.
That's a terrifying,
It really is. This
Yeah.
wasn't about simple negligence. It was a deliberate act.
like cold-blooded murder,
Yeah, essentially.
incorporated into the blueprints of her buildings.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so chilling. It's the level of intentionality, the cold, calculated nature of her actions.
And what's even more chilling is this.
What's that?
The material says that she saw all of this as just business, not personal.
Wow.
As if she could completely detach herself from the human cost of her designs.
That's a classic example of what psychologists call moral disengagement.
Oh, interesting.
It's a way people rationalize doing harmful things, by distancing themselves emotionally from the victims.
So it's like she built this wall in her mind.
Exactly. And in Maya's case, it seems like her professional identity as an architect was that wall. It allowed her to view these murders, these calculated acts, as just another part of her job, stripped of any ethical implications.
So she basically convinced herself that she was above it all.
In a way, yes. And that brings us to the concept of hubris, right? That classic idea of someone believing they're so exceptional, so clever that they're immune to consequences.
Untouchable.
Exactly. But the irony, as your material points out, is that her ambition, this belief in her own untouchability, ultimately led to her own downfall within one of her deadly creations.
It's like she was playing with fire.
And the fire consumed her. The irony is incredibly potent. She spent her life trying to control these deadly events, to be this unseen hand orchestrating destruction. But in the end, she lost control in the most absolute way imaginable. She died in one of her own traps.
The very thing she designed for others.
Precisely. There's a grim symmetry to it.
I've got to say, the material you sent describes the scene of her penthouse collapsing in such vivid detail.
Oh, yeah.
Glass shattered upwards, a reverse snowfall against a twilight sky. It's such a striking image and so unsettling at the same time.
I can see why you find that unsettling. It really inverts the natural order of things, just like Maya's twisted use of her skills.
Exactly. And then there's this description of the sound of the steel beam as it gives way, this final dirge, they call it.
It's like the death knell she designed for others, finally ringing for her.
And here's another crazy detail.
Tell me.
According to her own internal schedule, her own twisted timeline,
Mm-hmm.
she wasn't supposed to die in that collapse yet.
She was scheduling her own death.
Not her death exactly, but her close calls.
That is wild.
Almost like she thought she could control even that, like a god dictating the fate of mortals.
It speaks to an incredible level of delusion and complete disconnect from reality.
Absolutely. And the material goes on to describe her final moments, trapped in the rubble, dust choking her, the concrete tightening around her, each breath a struggle. But even then, even as she's dying, her main concern isn't the loss of life itself. It's the loss of control.
It sounds like control was her ultimate addiction, more than life itself.
Yeah. The inability to dictate her fate, that's what terrified her.
It really exposes the fragility of her carefully constructed world, her illusion of power.
And here's a detail that really stuck with me.
Yeah.
As she's lying there, dying, her phone buzzes. Another client, most likely calling about another deadly design. Even in death, her business continues.
Wow. It's like this macabre testament to the relentless nature of her dark ambition, how deeply rooted it was in her being. Even facing her own mortality, she's still caught in this web of destruction.
It's almost like she built her own tomb.
How so?
The material mentions her twisted satisfaction at creating these flawless buildings that concealed intentional weaknesses. It's as if she was playing this long, deadly game, not just with others, but maybe subconsciously with herself as well.
That's a really interesting point. There might have been a self-destructive element at play here, hidden beneath her desire for control.
Right. Like on some level, she knew this path would lead to her own destruction.
Exactly. And maybe she was orchestrating that too, in a twisted way.
And in the end, she finally realizes the truth. The material says that her final thought was that the real flaw wasn't in her buildings. It was in her.
It's a tragic realization, coming far too late.
And the last thing she sees is this perfect geometric shape of a crumbling ceiling, this symbol of her own deadly precision collapsing around her.
That final image is so powerful. It captures the essence of her life's work, this facade of flawless design built on a foundation of death. And it's all crumbling down around her, along with her illusions of control.
So what does Maya's story tell us about the human psyche? How can someone so intelligent, so meticulous, use their talents for such destructive purposes?
It makes us question the nature of ambition, the pursuit of mastery. What happens when we detach ourselves from ethics, from compassion?
Right.
Brilliance without a moral compass can become a terrifying force. It's like a weapon pointed in the wrong direction. And Maya's story is a stark reminder of that. And the need for control taken to extremes can make us lose sight of what truly matters: human life.
Now, let's move on to the second story you sent, the one about Captain Eric Thorne, the pilot.
The master of disaster.
Yeah, another disturbing tale from the dark world of true kill. Thorne's story involves orchestrating plane crashes, making them look like accidents.
Yeah, a completely different kind of manipulation compared to Maya.
Right.
He's not just messing with static structures, he's manipulating dynamic systems, playing with the trust that people place in a pilot.
A huge responsibility.
Absolutely. And he betrays that trust in the most calculated way imaginable.
So unlike genuine accidents, the crashes Thorne orchestrated were carefully planned acts of sabotage.
Masterpieces of deception.
The material describes a tinkered valve here, a loosened line there.
Just enough to create the illusion of a catastrophic mechanical failure.
And then he would step in and save the day.
Playing the hero.
Becoming the celebrated pilot who managed to land the plane despite a near-fatal malfunction.
It's chilling, the level of cynicism and disregard for human life.
He basically used people's fear and vulnerability to gain recognition and rewards.
It was a performance, a carefully constructed lie.
And what's his motivation for all of this?
Well, according to the material you sent, it seems to be a mix of things. Insurance payouts, quiet promotions.
Oh, agreed.
Greed, for sure. But there's also this chilling phrase: the subtle pleasure of snuffing out lives on his whim.
Oh, wow.
That suggests something darker, a sadistic element. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the power, the control over life and death.
So this guy was playing God.
In his own twisted way, yes.
And the flight described in the material you sent was supposed to be his masterpiece.
His magnum opus of destruction.
His target, a wealthy industrialist. He had planned everything, rehearsed the Mayday call, even mentally prepared the eulogy he would give.
The level of premeditation is just staggering.
He was so confident, so sure of himself. But then something unexpected happened.
What was that?
The malfunction wasn't part of his plan. It was real.
He lost control.
Completely. The material emphasizes this difference between the simulated engine trouble he was used to and the gnashing teeth of a genuine malfunction.
He couldn't manipulate this, couldn't predict it with his usual certainty. It was raw, untamed chaos.
And his carefully constructed facade crumbles.
How so?
Material describes him fumbling with the controls, sweat pouring down his face. But this wasn't the stage makeup of a practice performance.
No.
This was the cold lubricant of true terror, as they put it.
His body betrayed him, revealing the fear that lay beneath the surface.
And for the first time, he's confronted with the human cost of his actions.
Tell me more.
He looks out at the passengers, their faces filled with terror. He hears their screams. But this time, they're not just extras in his twisted play.
They're real people caught in a real disaster.
Exactly. And he realizes, with a chilling sense of irony, that he, the architect of so many fake crashes, is about to die in a real one.
A victim of his own game.
And to add insult to injury, it'll likely be attributed to pilot error.
The ultimate punchline to his twisted career.
And the final image from the material is just perfect.
What is it?
The backup system light, the one he had disabled to make his fake crashes more convincing, is blinking.
Like a little red eye mocking him.
Yeah, winking gleefully at his imminent demise, as the material puts it.
He built his own trap, and now he's caught in it.
And there's no heroic landing this time.
Yeah.
No applause, no self-congratulation. Just the cold, unforgiving depths of the ocean.
A fitting end for someone who played God with people's lives.
So we have these two stories, Maya and Thorn, both from the fictional world of True Kill.
Two master manipulators.
Both brilliant in their own twisted ways.
But ultimately undone by their own ambitions, their own need for control.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What does it mean when people become victims of their own carefully laid plans?
Is it poetic justice? Or just a tragic consequence of their own hubris?
It definitely makes you think about the nature of consequence, of accountability. These stories, even though they're fictional, offer a glimpse into the darkest corners of the human psyche.
Absolutely. They remind us that brilliance without a moral compass can be a dangerous, destructive force.
And they make us question our own fascination with stories like this, stories where the perpetrator becomes the victim.
It's a reminder that even in fiction, actions have consequences.
You've given us some truly unsettling material to think about.
It's been a fascinating, if disturbing, exploration.
What do you think? What drives people to create such elaborate schemes?
And what does it say about us that we're so drawn to these stories of downfall and destruction?
These are the questions we're left with.
The unsettling legacy of our true assassins.
If you want more addictive cloak and dagger stories like this, be sure to rate and follow the show.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening.